Hi, good morning, folks. Welcome to Midweek. We're so glad you've joined us today. Today we're following up. I don't know if you'll recall, a couple of weeks ago, we did an interview here on Midweek with Kelly Esseltine from the IPC Care Team. That was back in March, so you're forgiven if you forget. But this is a follow-up interview to that interview, so you might want to scroll back in the timeline on Facebook or visit us on YouTube and watch that video in conjunction with today's interview. Today we're meeting with Paul Harbinson. You may recognize him from last week. Last week we spoke with his dad and today we're speaking with Paul. But by way of introduction, I just wanted to say, hey Paul, how's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, I'm doing well, thanks for asking. So before we dive into today's conversation, which is basically part two of the IPC Care Team video that we did last time with Kelly, I'm wondering if you and I can get to know each other a little bit better, and by extension our viewers as well. So tell us about Paul.
I am, as you said, my parents are members of the church. My parents were missionaries, so I grew up traveling the world. You know, so there was times when we didn't travel. I felt like I was being deprived. That's how much we did travel as we were kids. Then I went to school, got my degree in television and film production first, and then went back to school and got my degree in church ministries. I was a youth pastor for 5 years in a church here in Brantford, Ontario. And then I moved on and went back to school and got my bachelor in counseling. And then I worked at a young offenders prison in Kitchener, where I was part child and youth worker, dealing with the kids, hang out with them playing games, also part guard. So there were times when I would have to restrain as well. And during this time, I got married. When I was in school, I got married to my wife, Lisa, and had 3 stepchildren. Abby, Rachel, and Daniel. We were, so I had to quit the job there at the prison because it was only part-time. Worked for a while at a call center. Off that call center was, got laid off of that call center and went back to school and got my social service degree. And the last 5 years, I've been working for Brant Family Children's Services. Full-time until 2 years ago, and now just part-time now.
That resume reads like a phone book. That's really cool, man. You and I have a little bit of a commonality in that we were both MKs. Your life is a little more floral than I am. You've made it to more countries than I did, but we do have that background. That's fantastic. So, in the process of all that, with your parents going to IPC, how did you end up being involved at IPC?
Well, we were going to church here in Brantford, and Dad was preaching on a Sunday morning, so we came up to watch him preach, and my daughter fell in love with the worship. The church we were going to was on screen, so the worship was not live, it was on screen. And she fell in love with the worship of IPC. And so we drive from Brantford every Sunday to come up to IPC for church. No, we got involved in a small group. And anyone who's new coming to IPC, get involved in a small group, because till we got moved in a small group, we would see my parents and then we'd leave. But now, since we got involved in a small group, we've been able to make some really good friends at IPC, and so I went from being a part of a small group to leading a small group here at IPC, and that's what got me here, was to hear the worship. And then we came back again and heard Pastor Chris preach, and we really fell in love with the church, and it became our church.
Oh, that's fantastic. We love having you here. I know Abby fairly well, I guess, through youth and also drama at church. Remember that when we used to be in church and do drama? That was crazy. I think that was about 10,000 years ago, but it feels that way. So recently, I heard that you had become involved with the IPC Care team, and can you tell us basically a little bit of a summary of where you've come to in the last little bit since my interview with Kelly?
Yes, we've had a very positive response to the care team. People have said they really felt that they were being cared for, that the people wanted something in the IPC church to reach out to them and talk to them. And to be honest, a lot of our referrals are coming from not necessarily the people, but from other people in the church, worrying about people in the church. And that to us is a great thing to see, because we're one anothering, like Pastor Chris talked about when he introduced the IPC Care team. We are seeing that happening all across the church. People are calling in and saying, this person has this, can you give them a call? Or we've only had, I think, 1 or 2 referrals to actually from the people themselves, but most of them are coming from other people pointing out needs and cares in our church. And to us, that's been a great response, because that's what we want to see, our church one another each other.
That certainly is. That certainly is just an indicative thing about the folks at IPC. There really is a family feel at church, and I am really glad to hear that. One of the things in the model that I was intrigued to see when Kelly was showing us the model, and since then we've actually aired it on midweek, but also on a Sunday sermon back in March, was the fact that one of the first points of contact that a person may have is at a life group. And you talked about life groups and the importance of life groups, and that was one of the first ways you got involved with IPC. But what have you been finding there? What would you like to say about the importance of life groups when it comes to the IPC Care team?
Life groups are the first point of contact. If you're in a life group, we're hoping that your life group leader and your life group team will step up and support you. And we are seeing that. We're getting calls from small group leaders that have said, life group leaders that have said that they have had this person and can we help out in this area. But we've also seen life groups that are stepping up and doing things. We've had life groups that have sent out meals to people that don't have that were having surgeries or having problems, and stepping up and doing things that, again, the one anothering. I keep going back to that word because that really is the very important word for our group, is that we want people out there to look after and help each other out. We're there to step up when those times are a little more needing more care than maybe a small group can do. So then we will step in and help. And those that are not in a part of a small group, my plea is get involved in a small group, just for you be able to be fellowship in the church and to meet new people in the church. But also, there will be the ones that you will hopefully will be caring for you and looking after you in those times of need. And we will be there alongside them, helping and supporting them. And like I said, we've had a real strong response from the care team leaders, and they've been really stepping up. Like, I've known groups that have gone out and given out gift cards, groups that have gone out and given food to people that need it, who have been praying for people and doing all those kinds of stuff that we have been commissioned to help out on. We're seeing those being happen as well in small groups and life groups.
Absolutely. Being part of a life group myself, within a few weeks of the IPC Care team being formed, it seemed that there were boots on the ground examples of that. We had a gentleman lose his dad, and we had another gentleman get sick with a heart attack, and so it was really, really nice to see the life group just rally around those people, and like you say, provide them with meals, provide them with support. You know, we're in contact with each other via text and stuff like that during COVID, and maybe that those text messages ramped up, you know, and those points of contact ramped up. So it's a fantastic model, and it's nice to see the way that it's working. Do you have any other thoughts? Is there anything you guys would like to see to help it work better, or any points, tips?
Well, the biggest thing is, don't leave it up to your small group leader. Don't leave it up to your leader. The whole group can help. You know, when we have an issue at my small group, I bring it up to the group. I have a great group. They all step up, they help out, they do things. We had a few things come in our group, boom, 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 at one time. And I would have been overwhelmed if I had to deal with them all myself. But my group stepped up and helped and dealt with it, help, support, and each other. And I think that's a big thing. Don't just leave it up to the leaders. Be able to, people in the group should can help out as much as they can. And then when it's time, leaders, when it is time, when you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, or when it gets to an issue that maybe this is something that we don't really, know what to deal with, then call on us, and we'll be there to help support and look after your people in your group. And our goal would be to work with them and get them back into the group as well, so they can be active in the group as well, continue to be active in the group.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to get involved on a practical team?
On the weekly email that goes out, there is a link on there that has been fixed, which you can link up and sign up. If not, there's also the number for the IPC care team that's out before each service and is online, which you can go ahead and call, and that will get you into our coordinator, and she can sign you up for one of the teams.
Today's been super informative, Paul. Thanks so much for joining us today and sharing these thoughts. And we would encourage folks to get in touch with the IPC care team through those channels if you can help out in a practical way. And obviously, folks need prayer. So if you can't give in a practical way or be involved, you can definitely be praying for the team, praying for their health and well-being, as well as they get involved in these things. It's fantastic to see this in operation. Thanks again, Paul.
I just want to read something from Scripture. It says there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of services, but the same Lord. That comes from 1 Corinthians 12, 4-5. And it goes on to say, just as a body through one has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whatever Jew or Gentile, slave or free, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Nor if the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I do not belong to the body. It would not, for that reason, stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, I would not, for that reason, stop being a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body was an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But the fact God has placed the parts of the body, every one of them, just as they wanted them to, as if there are many parts, but one body. And the reason I'm bringing that up is we also have some practical needs teams. And you've noticed we've been sending out emails to during the midweek email. We had some problems with the link. We do apologize about that. We have fixed the link, and we encourage you to sign up for these groups. And some of these groups of practical needs are like for volunteers need for housekeeping, driving, and our celebration teams. And I want people to realize that these are very important parts of the church. You know, we can't do the one anothering without these parts of the church. And it's very important that we bring up that we still need some help in these three areas. The celebration team is going to be a team that will be doing birthdays, not birthdays, doing birth announcements, doing celebrations of deaths as well, babies, anniversaries, all those kind of things. So that's a group that's going to be keeping the church informed on what celebrations, what things are going on, and also the sad things of people passing as well. So we know what the church knows what's going on. But the practical teams, like the housekeeping team, the volunteer, the driving team, the housekeeping team, and the two where right now we're not having a hard time filling some spots. But I do understand we're in the middle of a pandemic. But these are things that we want to do after the pandemic is done. We want these teams set up so when people have a need to be driven to a doctor's, or need to come to church, or has to go be driven to the hospital for a procedure, we have those volunteers in place. And there are people in our church that are, can't cut their grass. And I know that the youth has stepped up and helped and been doing some of that very recently, and we appreciate that very much. But there are some people that need some help house cleaning because they can't do that regular day stuff and they're out by themselves. And hospitality is another gift, another area that God can use us. And this is what all these practical needs come as. And I want to end with putting that plea out there with this. It's Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. And by you helping out and joining these teams, you are helping bless people in the church that really may need help at a period of time, and you are the blessing they'll need.
Well said, and thanks for circling us around to those scripture verses as well. It's really important to realize that we're all a body and we're all integrally connected and important to one another for the function of the church. And Paul, thanks for those verses. Thanks for reminding us of the practical needs. It sounds like this whole thing is taking off, and the fact that you're bringing up the word, the phrase or the coined term "one anothering" over and over again is speaking to not just the impact of that particular sermon that Pastor Chris did, but the whole concept behind what the IPC Care team is doing. So Paul, I want to thank you very much for joining Midweek today and sharing with us these thoughts. And we look forward to hearing about how the IPC Care team is doing, and maybe some anecdotes of things that you have been getting involved in the future.